I don't care whether you approach it from starting with every time surface area is 2 circles plus side or label. That's fine, right? You can do that every time if you want. And you can work it out. You could even work it out separately, write it separately, work out the circle, work out the side, add them together. That's fine. If some of you want to use a pre-made formula, again, as I said, you could find lots of them if you search on Google, right? But they make sense what they are, right? You have 2 circles, this part right here. The area of that circle, what do we say the area of the circle was? Area of circle. What's the area of the circle? It's pi times r squared, right? What's the area of the side when it's all unfolded here? What's the area of the side? It's a rectangle, right? And then we had some kind of a circle there somewhere. And another one over here, right? Something like that, except they're not quite the same, but that's okay. Should I do that one again? I should. Okay, so you have 2 circles here. That's close enough. What's the area of the rectangle? This distance right here. This distance has to be the same as which other distance? It has to be the same as all the way around the circle, right? That label has to be big enough to go all the way around the can, right? It has to be able to go all the way around that. The rectangle is circumference times height, right? There's the height. Circumference is all the way around. The area of the circle is radius squared times pi. There's several ways you can write the area of the side. I'm going to call it the side instead of the label. One way you could do the area of the side is circumference times height, right? Circumference times height. So one formula you could write is 2 of these plus this. So one formula you could write for surface area of a cylinder is you could write 2 times pi r squared plus circumference times height. That's one formula you could write. But you could also change, and sometimes you're not given the circumference. What's a way of finding that circumference? If you're given the diameter, how can you find it from the diameter? If you know the diameter of this thing, how do you find how far around this is if you're given the diameter? You're given the diameter, how do you find how far along the label has to be? How do you find the circumference if all you're given is the diameter? We don't know. How much farther around is the circle than across? Instead of to find circumference, sometimes you can just do pi times diameter, right? Pi times diameter, we know that. Another formula then for the surface area of a cylinder is if you use this. So sometimes you'll see the formula says 2 pi r squared for the top and the bottom, plus instead of circumference, it would say pi times diameter in here. If you want to start with that formula, you can. And even there's one more, because what could you do to find the diameter if you're given the radius? How do you find the diameter if you're given the radius? If I didn't know the diameter, how can I find it from the radius? What can I put in instead of that diameter there? What could I replace it with? How do you find it from the radius? You take the radius and times it by 2, right? So another formula you're going to see is instead of this, you're going to see it'll say pi times 2 times radius times height. There's 3 different formulas that you could see for a surface area of a cylinder. All 3 of these are written on the first page of that section in your study guide. You'd probably find at least one of these in your agenda. There's usually a section that says math formulas, and it'll have those, at least 1 or 2 of them. You can use whichever one makes sense to you. Or you can just start from saying, I need 2 circles and the side. From teaching this in the past, I know some people are going to have more success by starting with this and just saying, I know I need to take the side and 2 of the circles. Some of you are going to have more success starting with a formula and filling in the numbers. Because then if you're given some numbers, all you have to do is write the formula to start with. Say 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh. And then replace it with numbers. If you're given the radius, you can just substitute the radius and put it in. Whatever it is, squared. and then you put the radius in over here, and you put the height in over here. You replace that with the radius, and you replace this with the height. And you can use that to find it. Whichever way is going to work, but somehow you have the responsibility in the next half hour to make sure you understand and you get that assignment done. Okay? The next half an hour.